this video, we will go over the tree of life, the tree of knowledge, and their connection to the chosen 144,000 light sparks. This is an excerpt teaching from our newest channel, Codex, Ascension Gates, and 144 Awakening, which is linked in the description box below. Please reference that book for the full discourse on this information. When it comes to the tree of life, this has been spoken of for thousands and thousands of years. It's been written about throughout different mythologies and so many different scriptures. And one of the things documented is that the size of the tree of life is equivalent to 360,000 parasangs. So when we look at that measurement and we configure it, which is one parasang is equivalent to about 3 miles, that's going to give you that God number of 1.08 million in size. Now, before I continue, I want to say that what is it that you always see when you are on your spiritual journey? You always read about the numbers 144, 144,000, and then you also have the number 36. So it's 36, 360, 36,000, 360,000. Then you have 108. And along with so many other numbers. But let's focus on these. What does this mean? Why are you drawn to these numbers? Well, the seraphim showed this to me. When it comes to the tree of life and the tree of knowledge, they simply are the representation of the aeon of day and the aeon of night, meaning that of life and that of death. In our teaching in the Pearl Code book, we thoroughly go over this. We break down that before any material expression, any of that of the earthly worlds was created, you had the pearl, you had the pre-existing one. This is where you have light, which is life. When the gloomy pearl was created, that is where death came. That is where materialized and elements and everything of that expression came, which is taught as the night, is taught as the shadows, and so forth. This is where the tree of knowledge was planted and created. Why was that? That was created because when you look at your life, this lifetime, and you think back to all the pain you experienced, when you look at your soul and you look at and examine the wounds of it, did those experiences not help you grow, gain wisdom, expand, and understand? Yes, it did. What did it give you? It gave you knowledge. So to discover knowledge, one must first discover death. To discover death, you will discover knowledge. This is why in scripture it says that if you eat of the tree of knowledge, you will die. That's what it means. Meaning that when you exit the garden of the pearl, meaning that of life, immortality, and when you are immovable, meaning you are one with divine will, and you do not desire to play in the tree of knowledge, then you will not experience the death. But when you come to the tree of knowledge, you will come and your soul will be hidden in a cage of flesh for you to discover it. But you must be like a baby and know that not to touch that because it's too hot. I don't want that because it tastes sour. You have to experience it. The baby has to experience it. It has to crawl before it walks. It has to hear the sounds, and it has to see everything in its external stimulus before it can program in its own brain, hey, that is blue, that is green, that is hot, that is cold, and so forth. So this beautiful experience was created and gifted. So when you look at these numbers, let's go back to the numbers. So you have in perfected states a spear because it is to imitate that of the pearl, the pre-existing one that we teach in the Pearl Code book. So the pearl is round. And so when you look at that perfected state, that's going to give you that 360 degree. That's going to give you that number that we're talking about in a way that makes it easy for you to understand. So you take the number 360. Now, we're going to subtract from that degree 108 degrees that was going to represent the tree of life. That's going to represent the aeon of day. Then we're going to subtract from that another 108 degrees for the tree of knowledge, for the realm of the night. Those two together combined give you 216. That is the arc 216 that I drew and we teach. That's part of Metatron's Cube under the 12 Immortals chapter of the Pearl Code book. If you have this newest Ascension Gates book, you can actually turn and see that image on page 50. So that 216, for those of you who haven't seen this, just imagine the Pac-Man, you know, the game, the Pac-Man, wah, wah, wah. He's going around and he has his mouth open. He or she, Miss Pac-Man, I think it is, has the mouth open like a piece of pie. So everything that is the representation of Pac-Man with the mouth open, that's going to measure out when you place it on a circle and you take out the mouth. That's going to measure out 216. 216 is the measurement. That's going to give you that 108 plus 108. But then when you subtract from 360, this 216, what does that leave you guys with? It leaves you with 144. So this is why 144 arc gate that we teach is the opening of the Ascension Gate. Now, ironically, Pac-Man with the mouth, when it's open, let's look at that as the word. So as the word expresses itself, that is going to extend out that sound wave, which we teach as the Shekinah, as the breath of life. So when the mouth opens and it speaks that word, it sends that breath into all the aeon of the night. It allows this light to descend and purify everything of the material world. And it is by way of this purification that anyone who has expanded their intellect, who has worked hard to expand their consciousness, to be able to match that 144 vibration, they are going to bear witness to this light descending. That is why you're able to see these lights sparkling around you. That is that golden dust. This is the honey. This is the pollen that is coming down upon the earthly gardens to pollinate all seeds that are looking upward and facing the light of their maker to receive this flood of light. But what is this expression? What is this body of light? This is where you get the 144,000 light seeds. When you look at your highest original state, when you were created, you are so expanded that it is incomprehensible. But where you were created, you stay. You stay in that expansion of existence. Why? Because when the Almighty started to create extensions of itself, okay, those consciousness fields were then bestowed a power vested with the ability to also create a space. And then those created spaces and so forth and so forth. It continues for eternity, okay? So in the highest degree, those first wave of expressions, the next space that they created, they had to use a unified essence of their totality to create this newly created space. Meaning that when they created that space, it's not as big as the space that they currently exist in. So when they want to play in this newly created space, when they want to exist in it, what do? They have to take and project into this newly created space a smaller aspect of themselves. And then that continues and that continues and that continues until you get to this lowest degree where you have just a spark of who you truly are. And this spark, we call it the light spark. This light spark is seated in the cell That is what your heart, your literal physical heart, that first cell that is created in the embryo is that spark. So it starts to seed itself in a baby, and it becomes imprisoned and hidden and cloaked in the veil of the ego when it comes to incarnate in the material expression, to experience death so it can experience and gain knowledge of who it is and what existence is and who is the Almighty. So when this 144 arc gate opens, and we teach this in the Proco book, when the Melchizedek order descends down, well, it's the assembly of salvation, the brotherhood of light at the highest degree. It opened up and created this gateway, which we call the 144 arc gate. This 144 ascension gate from the highest degree. When it opens, it allows this light to pierce into the darkness. When this first opened, we teach this in the 144 book. The Proco book. And it's also been talked about in times of antiquity. The Gnostics taught this. This is nothing new, guys. When the atom of light that perfected Christos' body descended in, the darkness saw this. That was when it first became witness to it. All right? So when it comes down, it came down and it created the Melchizedek order. It created that assembly for salvation. So as that one body, they had to then take off their robes of glory, and they left it there. So that way, as they descended further and further into the darkness, they had a safety net so they would be able to ascend back into the realm of the light. But what does that mean? What that means is that they were not able to fit their expanded light expression into the realm of the night. So they had to create that space. All right. And as they descended, they separated and separated and separated. And this is who the 144,000 chosen light seeds are. These individuals at this degree are separated as 144,000 different bodies. But together, they are the robe of glory. Together, they are this Christos body that descended down. And they're so expanded. They have so much light that everywhere they descend into, everywhere they pass, everywhere they step, they leave behind so much light, and they emanate so much light that it automatically purifies all the shadows around it. And that is why we teach under the Rainbow Warriors section of the the Angelic Pearls 144 book. This is why Archangel Michael spoke about the Rainbow Warriors as having the hardest job, because your light is so bright that it shines and illuminates all dust in the other person's house. That means that all these things that people hold deep inside that they don't want to face, you will disturb it when you are with that individual. And that will cause this individual subconsciously to kind of act, not so nicely towards you. It has nothing to do with you on a personal level. This is because your light is so bright that it shakes up their shadows. All right. So where do we get this number? When you look at the 360,000 parasongs, and we broke it down, I said it's 1.08 million. That's at the highest degree, because remember, it's such an expansion that as we descend down into dimensional fields of existence, the spaces get smaller and smaller. So I want you guys to imagine these spaces descending, and let's visualize it on a cosmic level. So when you look at it on a cosmic level, that is going to give you 360,000 degrees of space. So the 360,000 degrees of space, we are going to now subtract from it 108,000 degrees of space for the tree of life on that smaller descended degree. And we're going to do the same for the tree of knowledge on that smaller descended degree. And I'm going to explain what these are in a minute. So that leaves you with 144,000. So that 144,000, okay, they are the emanation of the Ascension Gate on this cosmic level. And as they ascend up to reunite with that Melchizedek body, that's when they ascend up until they reach their fullness, which is that 1.44 million expression. All right. I know this is a lot, guys. It's very advanced, but these Pearl Code books, these teachings are for the advanced individuals. These are for the ones who are part of this select. This is what this stuff is for. To help you remember who you are. And also to expand your consciousness to that 144 vibrational intellectual degree. So you can become witness to this. Because when you're able to bear witness to this event, you therefore become one with that light. It automatically pulls you. And so when this light comes down, it bounces and it ascends back up when the gates close. It's going to drag with it like a fishnet. You will become the wedding train of that bridal dress. And you will be dragged with it. Because you have worked and expanded your intellectual degree to be of that 144 vibration. So, when it comes to, sorry guys, I lost my train of thought. Let me tap in, hold on. This is a lot of information. So, when I was telling you about everything in perfection as a sphere, I want you to visualize the planets and they're moving around, and then you're going to visualize a galaxy and it has all the solar systems moving around. So, visualize this now as gears on a cosmic clock, and they're all moving. And when the gates are moving, I want you to visualize them moving at the 4 cardinal points. So the question arises, how do we know when this 144 gate opens? Well, we went over this in the Emerald Tablets discourse in that book, which was also in the original Emerald Tablets 36,000 years ago, because that was the last time the gates opened. The gates have opened again as of April 2020. That is why the sun became white. And as the light is descending more and more until the event happens, this is why you guys have been awakening since that year. So you hear in mythology of the 4 cosmic winds. That is the 4 cardinal points, north, south, east, west. So visualize that cross, that Maltese cross. That's how we teach it in the 144 book. So when you look at the number 144 and you divide it into those 4 cardinal points, what do you get? You get 36. So when we're looking at the gate being that 144,000 and you divide it by the 4, do you not get 36,000? So that is where you get 36,000 solar years. And in the Emerald Tablets, we do go over very deeply these numbers, and you will also see these numbers when they showed me the evolution of the atom, when they showed me the evolution of man and why you had Neanderthals go to Homo sapiens and Homo sapiens advancing to Homo sapiens sapiens, and why there's X amount of earthly years in between these, and how this relates to these numbers and how this relates to the cosmic gears moving. Everything moves in cycles and seasons. Okay? So when you look at the gears moving, once again, that's where you get 36,000. Because when the gate opens, it allows light to descend as well as ascend. So you have what they call it a guard change, a change of guard, right? That's why they say every so many thousand years, the logos will change. Let's just say from, Archangel Michael to Archangel Gabriel, or whatever you want to, make up. And that's why they say it changes from, it went from the hands of whatever this god was to now Zeus. All right. This is why we look at everything and we see that every 2,100, here goes that number again, 216, 2,160 years, we're going into a new age. Like we just went from Pisces into Aquarius. You can't make this stuff up. Everything connects. The lower hand connects to the big hand. From the micro to the macro. It's all going to be the same. So that's how you can understand, and that's how we get these numbers, and that's how the ancients got these numbers, because they knew how things worked. So when you look at the hours in the day, you have what? You have 12 hours for day and 12 hours of night. This also applies to that, because that's going to give you your 24 degrees. Now, I want to explain, how do we get that? So take a deep breath, guys. Buckle up, because we're about to go a little bit deeper. So I'm doing this freehand as I'm talking, so hopefully I can create this image that I'm trying to explain. So I want you to think of, hopefully it's on the screen. You have the pearl of day, which represents the aeon of day. And I want you to visualize this pearl on top of a gloomy pearl, which is going to represent the aeon of night. Okay? So I want you to see them two together, kind of creating that figure 8. There's so many connections that you guys will see with this. Now, again, I want you to visualize that 144 opening, which from this degree of the night, it's going to be opening upward. So it's going to be like a pyramid pointing down. And then the pyramid that points and faces upward, because that is going to be the Ascension one. The Ascension one faces down, the Ascension one faces up. So I want you to visualize the one facing up is pearlescent white, and then sapphire blue for the one piercing down. And you're probably like, why is it these colors? Well, that's because the Christos light at these 2 degrees is going to be sapphire blue, and then at the highest degree is going to be that pearlescent white. This is why in some cultures you will see these hidden colors. Now, when these two merge, that is when light and sound of existence have become perfected. They have become that perfected number of souls that they need to have these gates successfully open. That means that these light sparks that descended down, they have to awaken. Why is it so important? Why have I worked so hard to scribe these books back to back to back to back? Because there has to be so many of you guys. You have to get to a certain degree of your awakening so this gate can fully open. So that way the next ticking of the cosmic gear, it can be aligned, because that alignment of this degree is so important for every other degree. This is how important it is. You can't just look at this one lifetime and be, woe me, I just want to get out of here, I'm done with this. No. You have to look at the entire tapestry of what you are part of. That is what is important. Not this little life. It's bigger than that. It's bigger than any of us. And so that balance of the perfected souls, which we go over in this book, it's been written about in so many ancient Gnostic texts. In the book of life, there has to be so many perfected souls. And so once this has been met, that is when these two pyramids, the one facing up, the one facing down, they combine perfectly as light and sound, and they create the Star of David. This is why the Star of David is so coded. All right. So the Star of David, we're going to take it a step further. It not only represents the balancing of these gears, the balancing of the cycles, the balancing and opening and closing of these gates, but it also represents the earth itself, the blueprint for earth. Earth has 7 earthly expressions. Why is that? Once again, this is a polarized expression. So you have night and day. So that means you're going to have a night collective consciousness and a day collective consciousness. A night collective consciousness and a day. Basically, you have, I'm sorry guys, I'm hearing the angels talk as I'm talking. So you're going to have a 3D expression that is in alignment with light, and then a 3D expression that's in alignment with the shadows. You're also going to have the same for a 7D expression of Earth and 5D. That means that you're going to have 2 earthly expressions in 3D, 2 in 5D, and 2 in a 7D consciousness. That's going to give you 6. This is where Enoch speaks of the gates of 6. This is where we thoroughly go over the gates of 6 and the meaning of this in the Shekinah Codex. Now, the 7th earthly expression is going to be the 9D expression, and that's going to be represented at the center of the Star of David, which is what, guys? That's your honeycomb. That honeycomb is where you have the God kingdom, because they oversee the walls of time. They oversee these earthly timelines. They make sure everything is in alignment. That is why gods and honey are spoken of so much in mythology. It's so much deeper than just physical honey that you get from bees. It has nothing to do with that. So that's going to give you your 7 earthly expressions. Now, when it comes to the 9D expression, that's going to be at a higher degree that's outside of time and space. So when you look at the 6 earthly expressions, that's where you get your 24 degrees of time. When you look at the number 144 for this ascension gate, and you divide it by the 6 earthly expressions that are inside of time and space, you get 24 degrees. So again, 144 divided by 6 gives you 24. We then take those 24 degrees and divide it by 2, which is where we get the 1 day and 1 night expression for each of these earths. That 3D earth, 5D earth, 7 earth, okay? So that's going to be your 24 divided by 2, giving you your 12 hours of day and 12 hours of night. Now, we go over a little bit more and more and more on this in this book. So I'm not going to go over it anymore right now. When it comes to the Metatron cube, when you're looking at, there's 13 total circles, we'll call them spheres. The center one is surrounded by 6, and then those 6, you got the honeycomb again, right? And then you have another 6. There you go. There's another connection right there, guys. So when you're looking at it, how are they all connected? They are all connected through this gateway system. And so when you look at the outer 6 spheres and you look at the center and how all those little lines are connecting from that, which you should see on your screen, going into the other spheres, which each one of those we go over in the Shekinah Codex what they all are, because they all represent 1D through 12D expressions of existence. To get from one to the other is when these gates open. So that's why you have all these connections where some people are really connected to galactic timelines, meaning that 5D existence. Some people are connected to the God timeline, the inner earth. There's so many different ones right now people are tapping into because these gates are aligning. So where you're going to go for those of you who will be ascending into these other expressions depends on what you're able to bear witness to. So if you're able to bear witness to this galactic stuff, that's where you're going to go. If you're going to be able to bear witness to the inner earth stuff, that's where you're going to go. If you're going to be able to bear witness to a 7D expression, that's where you're going to go. Meaning that you're able to take this body of flesh and you can either convert it all the way to light, or you can become quasi-material, quasi-spiritual, fully spiritual, and so forth. It depends on what you are able to bear witness to, what you can anchor. Like all that's happening right now, which we go over in the book as far as the 9th light body stage that Earth is just now shifting to, it's causing people to go crazy. It's causing people to go crazy because they're not able to bear witness to this light. They're not able to move forward. They're not able to take everything that's rising up emotionally, and they don't have the patience or not taking the time to sit with that like we go over in the books and to understand what's really happening with your emotional and mental body, how it's merging, how it is dissolving, how this is happening, how the seals that we go over in the books that the archons placed over your mind and created that ego when you drank that elixir that we go over in the book. When they did that, they concealed your soul. But as your soul is gaining its wings, like the butterfly does, when the caterpillar goes into chrysalis, what does it do? It becomes a butterfly. What happens? It has to make its wings strong so it can break free of this chrysalis cage. That's what your soul is trying to do. And as it's breaking free, as it's trying to break free, it's busting and pounding its wings on these walls. And that is like this bell inside of you that is ringing and getting louder and vibrating stronger and harder. But you keep resisting it. You keep resisting it. Like the oyster trying to resist that grit inside of it until it finally stops resisting it and the grit becomes a pearl. So stop resisting these emotions. Stop resisting what's trying to rise, what's trying to become a butterfly and make you free. You have to stop resisting it. You have to face it head on, but you have to do it yourself. You cannot look outside of yourself. You can't do these quick fixes. I also quickly wanted to say that in this book, on page 50, for those of you who have it, I drew the floodlight. So what does it mean, the flood coming? Oh, Noah, prepare your ark. This story has been talked about in 13 different mythologies, way before Christianity was created. It is always the same because everything is in stages and cycles and seasons, and this is nothing new, guys. Every 36,000 earthly years, this flood happens. Your ark is your physical vessel and your soul together, 2 by 2. You have to prepare it. You have to prepare everything inside of you, right? So when you look on page 50, you will see how we bring forth the 12 powers, which are the 12 hours of the walls of time. So in order to ascend the night, to go into the 12 hours a day, I break down each name of them. I break down these 12 archons and the different gates that are at this degree. And I show how this responds to the flood of light and the numbers that we just went over. Lastly, what I wanted to go over was this image that I'm going to put on the screen, which is also in the book. Is from the year 1695. And this is stunning. This is so deep. This is exactly what we just went over. So when you're looking at this, you're looking at the pre-existing one at the very top, which is incomprehensible. It has this arm and the 2 branches representing Divine Father, Divine Mother. And from them, as we go over all of this in the Pearl Code book, came the self-generated light spark. That is represented by the sun with the 4 spirals here, the 4 rows that create the 1 spiral of the stars. And those stars, as I channel what God says under the Fallen Watchtower section, you can see it in the Pearl Code book, the Shekinah Codex, and it's in this book because it's so important. He talks about his stars that he placed, which are the 7 seraphim that I go over in the book, and these 7 seraphim are placed as his stars of his watchtower. But that is when it comes to this light tower. This is why they talk about the spinning, flaming sword of light being the gate that protects entrance into this garden, into where the tree of life is. And that is the representation of Archangel Michael. And then you will see on this image, the 4 that I told you how there's 4 different rows of the stars. That is equivalent to the 4 aeons eternal aeons, the 4 eternal realms of that day aeon that we go over in the Pearl Code book. And then you will see descending from it is a trunk, and it's hard to see it, but what do you see, guys? You see the Star of David symbol. Because once again, that's that balance of this light and sound. That's going to be that gate, the main gate. And then you will see the eyes, the many eyes that are also a spiral that go around the one eye. Because we teach that in the Pearl Code book about the blind one. And so that one eye is the one overseer, which is of all of this lower aeon. And so the many eyes represent the different watchers. But you got to remember, watchers are both of the light and the shadows, which is why you have the 2 aeons of light and day down here. And so you're going to have, when you're looking at this image on the right-hand side, you're going to see it looks like roots of a tree is reaching on that side. But on the other side, you see the rays of light. That's going to be your 2 different consciousnesses. So that's going to be for those who align with service to the divine creator, to everything in existence. That's going to be those who are ascending and go to those ascending realms. And so when you're looking at the one with the roots, that's because everything that's of the earth is of the shadows. It's of the realm of the night. It's going to experience death. Right? Where everything that's of the light is not going to experience a death. And then the highest degree, which is when you're one with the Trinity at the very top, that's going to be where the stars are. That's going to be the reason why you see these arms reaching up to pull off the ripened fruit. So this concludes the discourse on the tree of life, the tree of knowledge, and the connection to the chosen 144,000. Because the chosen 1,000 at this lowest degree are going to be the actual 144 gate. They are the Ascension gate. And we thoroughly go over this in our newest book, Ascension Gates and 144 Awakening. It's a 2-part discourse. The back part is going to be an A to Z encyclopedia of the gates. It's going to be over 500 gates, and the gates are going to be the seraphim angels that are listed, A to Z, and then also what gate they oversee. And for some of them, we have a little bit more explanation of this. And this is the first time that this has been brought forth. So I'm pretty sure these are names you've never heard of. But keep in mind, when it comes to names, this is just simply a vibrational expression. Because at the highest degree, there is no name because everything is one and it just simply is. But you can use these keys, which their name is a key, to connect with that gate, to familiarize yourself with that gate. And all of this is explained in the first discourse part of that book. So with that said, they're also asking me to add this one last note. When it comes to who is written in the book of life, meaning those who are going to ascend these gates and who are part of the ones who will be able to bear witness to this light. Don't be too cocky. Don't be too arrogant. Nobody truly knows except for the Almighty and Gabriel, because Gabriel is the scribe of God who writes these names in the book of life. So continue to strive and to work on yourself and to expand and not allow the distractions to pull you off your focus. Continue focusing on the light that's within inside of you. Continue to focus on healing if you haven't already healed your wounds. Continue on loving who you are and seeing everything around you as one of who you are. To become a master, you must look at everything in existence, meaning that of the light and that of the shadows, and see it all as one. See it all as a beautiful masterpiece because they both need each other. Like I said before, and in these books many, many times, your scars are what make you perfection. Imperfection is perfection. So do not knock the shadows because you need them. We need the shadows to help us see who we are. The light needs the shadows. That, again, is the tree of knowledge. In order for light to understand itself, it had to create those roots. It had to create the tree of knowledge. And each and every one of us plays a part on that big tapestry of this essence. So commend yourself and do not knock others for where they are or what they believe in. We must love each other because by emitting this love within ourselves, we emit it outwardly. And that is what helps others. That is what truly helps. So you first must love yourself and then love everything around you. Have compassion for everyone. Have compassion for yourself. We have to allow room for others to believe in what they believe in. We have to allow room to trust that spirit is guiding others. We cannot waste our energy and our light trying to argue with other people. You have to focus that energy inward and have compassion and understanding that even though you may not comprehend why this is happening in the world or why this person that you love is doing the things that they're doing or believing in what they believe in, let that go. Give it to the Creator because only the Creator understands it. It's not meant for us to understand. Stay focused on loving yourself and expanding your light and being kind to everything and everyone around you, as well as to yourself. And remember, I love you. The angels love you. You're never alone. You're never alone.